Hello. So I just got this new paddle for my paddleboard off of Amazon. Just wanted a cheap one because the other day I was paddling with my regular paddle and it snapped in half and one half sank to the bottom of the sea. So I needed another one in a hurry. Got this one off of Amazon. It's the Explorer 3620. On the paddle it just says Explorer EX2. 3-piece, so you've got one, that piece, and then the top piece with the adjustable handle goes in there. Now I've spent a bit of time looking around at low-cost paddles, particularly about their weight, and I looked up the weight of the original paddle I got with my 2 bare feet stand-up paddleboard, and that was about 1.1 kilos or something like that. And I found that a lot of the inexpensive aluminium paddles were either about the 1 kilo mark or 1.2, 1.3 kilos. Now, this one on Amazon said that it was 1.02 kilos, and I've weighed it and it's actually 1.25 kilos, which I was a bit concerned about. However, I've been out for my first paddle with it this morning, and to be honest, I thought it was going to be an issue. When I'm actually carrying it and around, I can feel that it's definitely heavier than the old one, but when I'm out it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. I know a lot of people say that the paddle can wear you out if it's too heavy. I don't have a problem with this. My arms were no more tired after paddling for 45 minutes with this at 1.25 kilos compared to my old paddle, which was about 1 kilo. So that was the first thing. The other thing to note is the way the telescopic bit works is my old paddle, basically you undid a clip and you could pull this, you pulled out the extending part and there were holes which the clip clipped back into. So I always used to remember I used to use a hole number 18, so I always got it in the right place. Now with this one, it's ever so slightly different. You undo the clasp, like so, and you've kind of like got constant movement. There's no holes or anything like that to lock into, so what I'll have to do is somehow mark it with a permanent marker or a little scratch or something like that. The other thing I noticed this morning when I was out paddling for my first go with this clamp was towards the end of the paddle I noticed that the handle, when I was putting a lot of pressure on it, it was possible to turn it, turn the handle without, in the shaft, without actually turning the paddle at the end, obviously. But I've noticed that there's some screws here which can be tightened quite easily. Undo the clamp, tighten up the screws a little bit, now the clamp's a bit tighter, but the great thing is now that is impossible to turn when it's clamped. So just get that right again. Job done. Okay. So when I was ordering this, I thought I'd have a little look around on the interweb and see if I can find any other information on this particular paddle. I found a listing for it on eBay with about 8 reviews. Most of them were generally complimentary, but one of them said that although the product information said that it floated, it didn't float. So I've been doing some testing because I thought it floated, because I just chucked it in the pool and it didn't sink. And then it did. The top part is completely sealed and full of air, and that definitely floats, no problem at all. But the rest of the parts are steel, and this piece here is completely hollow steel, so that's just going to drop straight to the bottom. This piece here has got a seal on the end, but I think water's getting in through the press stud thing somehow, because this bit is filling up with water. and when it fills with water, it sinks. So, chuck it in. Oh, there it goes. No, the top end's sticking out, floating for a little bit. Looks like it might float for a little while, actually. So to summarise, as I say, okay, well, it's a cheap paddle. It's heavier than it says in the description. 1.25 kilos as opposed to 1.02 kilos. It says it floats, and it does float for a while, but it can sink when water eventually gets into the bottom part and this tube in the top. So it's going to float for a little while. But for £35, it's a perfectly good paddle, and a tiny little bit of movement where the paddle goes into the bottom part. But to be honest, not as much movement as there was in my original paddle. A lot more movement in that one. It's a good paddle. I like it. Can't go wrong for £35. Just be aware, it will sink eventually. Thanks for watching.